Do you ever feel like you're constantly battling invisible forces? You have to pretend like nothing is happening, even if you wake up with a million racing thoughts, deal with heavy work pressure, and dread your future. Feeling helpless and reactive and utterly dependent on external factors is a common experience for the majority of individuals. Their decisions were dictated by fear. Their behaviors were dictated by uncertainty. They give in to the forces of nature and other people around them. What if, however, I told you that a change in perspective could make this whole thing disappear? The mental and behavioral framework that allows you to remain unfaltering under pressure. A mental framework so potent that it causes others to perceive you in a new light when you fully embody it. Something worthy of reverence. Something that terrifies vulnerability. In this in-depth look of resilience, we will explore the thoughts of a real master. The great fighter Miyamoto Musashi not only won 60 duels, but also learned to defeat the most formidable adversary of all, himself. You must be aware of the necessity of expanding your horizons if you have clicked on this video. Mental fortitude, self-control, and direction are what you seek, and you're about to find it. Although Miyamoto Musashi is only a name from Japanese history, it conceals one of the most remarkable instances of mental fortitude and self-control that the world has ever witnessed. Musashi started his path as a warrior at a young age, during the 17th century in Japan, an era characterized by continual conflict and instability. He won his first genuine duel when he was 13 years old. His path to become a living legend began at that very moment. However, this is the aspect of Musashi that is most remarkable. Physical prowess and innate ability weren't his only weapons. Something that the majority of people never get was crystal clear to him. That one's own thinking is one's greatest asset. In contrast to his fellow samurai, Musashi was constructing an impregnable mental framework in addition to honing his sword skills. Musashi was more than simply a legendary samurai who never lost a fight in over 60 duels. He possessed exceptional skills in philosophy, art, and strategy as well. The renowned Book of Five Rings is an immortalization of his thoughts and teachings, in which he teaches not only fighting methods, but also ideas for living a life of purpose, clarity, and inner mastery. Fascinatingly, Musashi frequently emerged victorious in duels before they had started. Because of his famous reputation for mental toughness, many opponents would choose to forfeit instead of facing him. Swordsmanship wasn't the only factor here. It was all about the unwavering self-assurance and unwavering determination that radiated from him. Musashi didn't settle for conforming to prevailing norms. He established new ground by developing his own fighting style, the Knight in Ichi-Ryu, and demonstrating that there is more to martial arts than meets the eye. He embodied the heroic ideal of the warrior who must overcome internal obstacles before facing external ones. According to a Harvard University psychology expert, those who achieve this degree of self-mastery frequently exhibit what is known as psychological resilience. Keeping one's cool and one's emotions in check when faced with overwhelming adversity. Contemporary neuroscience confirms what Musashi found centuries ago. Mental strength is trainable, just like physical strength. But a monster mindset, what is it, precisely? The unwavering resolve that comes from self-control, laser-like concentration, and the capacity to keep going, even when everything else around you is giving way. is what we mean here, not physical violence or cruelty. Consider your most recent experience with adversity. It might have been a disagreement at work, a sudden drop in income, or a death in the family. Your reaction was what? In such a situation, the majority of people either shut down, act impulsively, or panic. What if, however, I told you that times of difficulty actually present you with the best chance to strengthen your mind? This mentality was personified by Musashi. He was unprepared for the difficulty of life. With every challenge, he grew stronger. Problems weren't anything to run from, he realized. As an educator, it was something you should welcome. When you adopt a monster mindset, you approach obstacles with the question, what did this come to teach me? This way of thinking allows you to turn your fears into strengths, your suffering into fuel, and your discomfort into progress. Let me explain something that the majority of people don't grasp. You must not be afraid. Defeat isn't you enemy number one. Enemy number one is letting these things dictate how you act. You are brave and present when you confront pain rather than trying to escape it. This kind of thinking is unusual, but it's not impossible. And once you have it, it makes no difference whether you're in the middle of a family crisis, a corporate crisis, or an internal struggle. Keep your cool, stay clear-headed, and stay focused. Reason being, the creature doesn't yell. The one who refuses to back down is it. Someone who stands out from the crowd is someone who other people notice. Something I don't really understand, but I value it. Brain scans taken by participants in this form of mental training reveal structural alterations. According to a researcher from Stanford's neuroscience department, these alterations are most pronounced in regions of the brain that are involved in controlling emotions and responding to stress. In order to better deal with stress, the brain rewires itself. After his death, Miyamoto Musashi didn't merely leave triumphs behind. Despite having their origins in the battlefield, the values and ideas he left behind are highly relevant to contemporary life. This is the foundation upon which the monster mentality rests. The path is in training when you use these concepts on a daily basis, starting with Principle 1. The first tenet is strong and unambiguous. Training is the way. For Musashi, there was always a chance to get better. Instead of training to win against opponents, his goal was to consistently outperform himself. However, the majority of individuals completely misunderstand training. Big events, tough sessions, and dramatic breakthroughs are the only things that matter to them, in their opinion. Even when you're not in the mood, showing up and repeating the basics is how you become an expert. And Musashi knew this. What this means is that you should approach your daily routine as a training ground today. Part of the process is doing little things over and over again and fixing mistakes as you go. You need discipline, not inspiration, to reach your full potential. Consider this. Although he was never terrible at swordsmanship, Musashi rehearsed his techniques countless times because he knew that becoming great takes constant effort rather than a singular triumph. One of the most tangible ways to influence one's future is to practice daily. Push through the fear and do it anyhow. Get going. Repetition is the key to progress. Your competitors gain an advantage with each day that you neglect training. You differentiate yourself from the crowd that gives up when things become tough every time you turn up. This is a quality shared by top achievers in many industries. according to a UCLA sports psychology expert. Regardless of their mood or the outside world, they see each day as a chance to practice deliberately. Consistency, not talent, is what separates amateurs from pros. Second principle: be aware of the potential harm and good in everything. Even if it's more nuanced, the second principle can have a profound impact. Grasp the repercussions and advantages of anything. Musashi was always deliberate when he struck. Nothing was impromptu. He was cognizant of the fact that every success had its risks, and that certain losses could teach him more than 1,000 victories ever could. The majority of individuals fall short in this area. They put short-term gain ahead of consideration for the bigger picture while making judgments. Instead of doing what is right, they choose for the easier route. Feeling good right now is more important to them than doing good for themselves in the long run. Musashi was like a chess grandmaster. He carefully considered the next 3 moves before making a play. He realized that in order to win the war, you must sometimes lose battles. To achieve long-term success, sometimes you have to sacrifice some short-term pleasure. We learn to be mindful when we do this. Stop and consider all of your options before making a final decision. Does this help me get closer to my goals or move me farther away from them? Is this decision going to help me or hurt me? Am I becoming the kind of person I aspire to be by taking this step? Alternately, is it preventing me from evolving beyond my current self? In a world where everything is tempting, it's just as crucial to know what to leave behind as it is to know what to seek for. Things that squander time, social media, unhealthy relationships. Even though they don't seem dangerous right now, they're systematically weakening your resolve. To live a life of strategy is to live a life of power. An MIT behavioral economist has shown that good decision-makers use this kind of cost-benefit analysis in all facets of their lives, not only money. This includes relationships and routines. Every decision they make has the potential to either strengthen them or weaken them. The third principle is to see the unseen. The third principle is very pragmatic, despite its seemingly esoteric nature. Watch what is invisible. It wasn't sheer strength that helped Musashi win. He triumphed by perceiving energy, surroundings, and people's intentions. Such is the nature of intuition, a sensitivity honed by time. This isn't some sort of mystical quagmire, though. Raising your level of situational awareness to the point where you pick up on details that other people overlook is the goal here. Comprehending the unwritten dynamics of any given circumstance requires the ability to read body language and other subtle clues. A lot of individuals just coast through life without paying any attention to the signs that are all around them. They fail to seize opportunities due to their lack of focus. They just can't read the room. Therefore, they end up in fights. Because they're just looking at the surface level, they make bad decisions. Doing this in your day-to-day life entails paying attention. Silence is golden, means you can tell when someone is asking you to stop talking and just listen. When walking slowly is the way to go. Mastering this skill requires you to learn to decipher subtle cues from others, the world, and oneself. Having mastered this skill, you will begin to notice patterns in everything. You can tell when someone is not being truthful, even before they finish talking. Deals in business always seem to go south when you're involved. When a relationship is about to hit a rough patch, you can sense it. No matter what you do in life, this will give you a huge leg up. Oxford University's cognitive science professor has discovered that those with this level of situational awareness have more activity in brain areas linked to prediction and pattern recognition. The main thing is that they start to notice details that other people overlook. They don't have any ESP. They simply pay more attention. The fourth principle is flexibility. Adaptability, one of the most remarkable features of his thought, is finally addressed. The same strategy doesn't work in every situation, according to Musashi. He was a master at adjusting his gait, his style, and even his rhythm. And this is probably the most important lesson that we can learn right now. The quickest way to become stuck in this world that is always changing is to fight change. Make a change if something isn't functioning. Redesign the plan if it didn't work. Not falling, but clinging to things that don't change is the error. According to a Wharton researcher specializing in organizational psychology, this is a trait shared by the most resilient leaders. Instead of seeing each obstacle as a personal failure, they use it as information to adjust their approach. Having grasped the fundamentals, you must now apply this mentality to the most difficult battleground of all: actual life. Simply put, a monster attitude isn't something to brag about. You experience it in the smallest of ways on a daily basis. Just like there's a difference between seeing a fitness video and actually working out, there is a difference between understanding these principles and putting them into practice. Acquiring knowledge without putting it into practice is meaningless in the workplace. Take stock of your position. All that stress, due dates, expectations, and perhaps even fears. Most people respond impulsively, are overwhelmed by worry, or become paralyzed when confronted with a difficult situation. They bemoan their lot in life, point fingers at their supervisor, or come up with bogus explanations for why they aren't successful. However, Musashi remained silent. His response was strategic, commanding, and expert. Despite being up against an intimidating foe, he remained composed. He deliberated, changed, and carried forth. Bringing this attitude into your day-to-day life entails being cognizant of the things you may influence. The way you react to your boss's mood is entirely up to you. No matter how well you plan, you will never be able to influence the market. Office politics are out of your hands, but your level of professionalism is. The key is to act methodically, not on impulse. You learn to be unflappable once you establish your position. People look to you for leadership while everyone else is going crazy. Employees who cultivate this kind of mental resilience are 31% more productive and 37% more probable to be promoted, according to a management psychology professor at Northwestern University. When it comes to your relationships, they're the most dependable, even though they aren't the most talented. Considering your relationships is the next step. When you can't listen, how often do you end up getting into fights? For the simple reason that you miss opportunities to talk wisely or take a step back. When responding, how often do your emotions get the best of you? Even before they launched an attack, Musashi had already anticipated their every move. Feeling the signs, paying close attention when others speak, and avoiding pointless conflicts are all things you can do emotionally. Being able to control one's voice and body language is essential. Realizing that gaining an argument usually implies sacrificing the relationship is a key component. The ability to admit when you're mistaken and the maturity to establish limits when you're correct are essential components of this trait. Disagreements in relationships usually go deeper than what meets the eye. They pertain to more fundamental demands for acceptance, comprehension, or safety. By mastering the art of reading these subtle currents, you may get to the root of the issue rather than merely masking its symptoms. This is also part of being a fighter. Those who are dominant over others aren't necessarily the strongest. Those people have achieved a level of self-mastery where they can inspire excellence in others. Regarding self-improvement, applying this to your personal development is of utmost importance. The kind of fear that prevents you from taking the plunge and doing something new. Being unprepared is that feeling. The inner critic who tells you to be patient, to wait for the right time, or to be careful because you don't have enough knowledge or experience. Musashi jumped right in. He battled during training. I learned from every mistake. Challenges are opportunities for growth. Being prepared is not necessary before taking action, he realized. Prepare by taking action. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth when you adopt a monster attitude. The chance to speak in front of an audience that makes you shudder. Field of practice. That potentially disastrous company plan. Field of practice. That discussion about your relationship that you've been putting off. Field of practice. For individuals who choose to gain wisdom from every experience, failure is not an option. Life will not spare you, but you have the choice to confront it head-on, prepared, and determined. This is the defining characteristic of the unbeatable, as opposed to the merely resilient. An expert in developmental psychology at Yale University has studied people over 20-year intervals and discovered that those who view problems as opportunities for progress are far more fulfilled and successful than those who try to avoid them. An everyday ritual is necessary for the embodiment of the monster mindset. Uncomplicated, yet potent. Anything that, like Musashi's sword, sharpens your mind daily. Here, though, is the one thing that sets the successful apart from the rest of us. Achievers have strategies, not merely objectives. There is no need to motivate them. They depend on self-control. Upon seeing something, they jump right in. It is a product of their persistent efforts. Making a list of goals for the day. Define your purpose, first thing in the morning, before you let the world or your phone distract you. So, what's your goal for the day? It can be due to a lack of motivation, anxiety, exhaustion, or a particular obstacle that you've been trying to avoid. Just write it down. Don't think about it. The act of putting words on paper has a profound impact. It turns an abstract idea into a tangible promise. Taking a strategic approach. The next step is to pick an activity that represents your dedication. A challenging exercise that demonstrates your ability to overcome pain. Reading something that teaches you something new, or finally having that tough talk you've been putting off. Instead of merely going through the motions, give it your all. Procrastination has no place here. Making a deliberate effort is key. There ought to be a reason for everything you do. Afternoon contemplation. Take some time at the end of each day to reflect on your progress and the lessons you've learned. What did you find to be effective? What failed? Is there anything I could change? In what ways did I deal with stress? Have my actions reflected the kind of person I aspire to be? Nothing mundane about this. It's a holy act of self-control. Never let a warrior live on autopilot. Every aspect of their lives is driven by purpose. Repetition of this simple practice over and over again forms an indestructible part of you. According to research by a Duke University professor of habit formation, people who stick to this kind of regimented routine every day significantly increase their level of grit. The capacity to bear through difficult times that last for a long time. Even more crucially, they express a sense of empowerment and assurance in their capacity to manage any challenges that may arise. Keep in mind that being a warrior does not need residing in feudal Japan. You face an internal struggle on a daily basis. The lessons we learn from Musashi teach us that the keys to strength are self-control, planning ahead, and facing our concerns head-on. A life of meaning and change can be yours when you take on this monster mentality. The mental fortitude you cultivate now will dictate the outcomes of tomorrow's conflicts. Leave a comment telling me which war you're going to win today. Send this video to someone who might benefit from its message by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it. Stay strong mentally and spiritually till we meet again.